I'm Diego Cordovez.
Adam Schoenfeld.
Welcome to The Scoop, brought to you by Full Tilt Poker. Today we have a young man named David Benefield. I say the name because I often forget to say the guest's name. And people who follow the online poker, the huge games, they know that he's a champion of the big games, playing for these very high stakes with a lot of success.
He's a super young guy who plays at the highest levels against the best competition. But to me, the interesting thing about him is he writes a blog, and he's very thoughtful about what goes on in poker.
So he'll be a thoughtful, analytical fellow. And to me, if they don't win these documents on TV, I don't know who they are.
Yeah, I don't think they're worthy, but we'll see what he has to say about that.
Now, they just aired the main event of the World Series, and briefly they showed your elimination. You'd made a deep run down to the final 100 players, and you also had two near-final tables this year, the World Series. Now, with all your success online, the big cash games, which people track and follow, are these tournaments important?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't play them if they weren't important. You know, I really enjoy playing tournaments. It's something different that I don't get to do every day, especially during the World Series. It's really exciting. You know, I've always wanted to win a bracelet. You know, every kid that comes up, you know, saw Chris Moneymaker or whatever win, is like, oh, that's so cool. I want to do that. And so yeah, I mean, I put a lot of effort in the tournaments, and I really enjoy playing them, and I really want to win one.
I've noticed from reading your blog that you've written about being frustrated that you haven't broken through with a huge tournament first place yet. Is that still on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's always on my mind. I mean, every time I play a tournament, I want to win it, you know, just like everybody else. But yeah, it's definitely on my mind. I wish I had a win.
Do you ever think that it's not worth the frustration and dealing with the stuff that goes on in tournaments?
Well, I mean, there definitely is a lot of, you know, drama and just all this other stuff behind tournaments you don't get from, you know, playing poker online or whatever. But I can't say if it's worth it or not. You know, I haven't won anything yet, but I'm going to keep doing it until I do. So
I mean, one of the things that when I play, I rarely play live tournaments, but I play the main event, and I get super frustrated with the antics of people who are doing things. Oh God,
yeah. I mean, everybody's such a drama queen about everything.
Right, and you know, calling for cards and you know, robot dance.
Yeah.
That like annoys me to where I play very few live events.
I mean, I get frustrated just playing live, even though, of course, for years and years I only played live before the internet came along. But for someone who's really learned to play on the internet, the very different pace of live
slow
play,
pace, 20 hands an hour.
I mean, actually, like I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. I started playing live before I played online. I played in like live underground games probably 3 or 4 times a week, like a 1-2 null limit game for probably about a year and a half before I ever started playing online. So I feel like, you know, for the people in my age group or whatever, that everybody started online, I feel like I do have a little bit more experience at live poker. But
the one thing that's really different is, in terms of just recognition, to the extent that that's important to someone, it used to be that tournaments were the one public avenue to really kind of achieve a certain public image.
Right.
And there were cash game players who were making millions who were virtually anonymous. Now with the internet, databases are tracking all the players, and guys, including you, have become, you know, folk heroes to some extent to a whole crowd of guys who follow the big games online.
The rail aficionados.
The rail aficionados, as you call them.
I'm sorry, magazine rail aficionado.
That's nice.
But it is different in the sense that I can understand the appeal of winning a tournament. It's like such a great experience. But on the other hand, even without playing tournaments, you can establish your reputation. And in a sense, it's a more valuable reputation. I mean, anyone can win a tournament, but to consistently beat the live games, you know, the cash games is...
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it's viewed differently. You know, I mean, the cash game players, you know, are like, oh, all tournament players suck, and tournament players are like, oh, I can beat those cash game guys, whatever. So, I mean, it's just, everybody has their niche or whatever, and it's just...
I'm sorry.
No?
You had written something in your blog that I thought was one of the best ideas I've ever read, and I think about it constantly. It was about... the account name changing controversy, and you suggested that there should be games online where all you see is just the stack size.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I think that's the best idea I've heard in months.
Well, I mean, there's been all this problems or whatever lately with people changing, you know, account names, multi-accounting, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, not having, that is one of the problems with not having a name. The whole multi-accounting issue would be harder to track, that kind of thing. But just as far as, you know, games in general, more games would get started, you know, more heads-up games would run, more everything would run if you didn't know who you were playing. And I think that would be really neat. I mean, obviously it's not, oh, people complain, oh, that's not poker, you know, when you play live, you get to look at the guy in the face, and this is, you know, pulling even farther away from that, but I do think it would be a good thing overall for online poker.
I mean, when you used to play live, a lot of times, let's say you travel to a new city, you didn't know who the people were, you just know their stack sizes, and you figure out how they play by playing with them.
Right.
And this, one of the problems now you see is that there'll be, a dozen high-stakes tables, and there's one guy sitting at each.
Yeah, it's awful.
Like, it's understandable, I'll just pick a name at random, but like a very good player, Phil Galfond, do you need to bash your head against the wall playing him if you know it's him? No, and he doesn't need to play against you.
Right.
But if you didn't know, that would be a game starter.
Yeah, you'd play him, and everybody would probably do something kind of goofy at first, to make it look like they're a little fishy. So
right.
Both players would be giving off, all these impressions.
There'd be strategies that everyone could exploit or exploit better than others.
Right, and it would just be, it would be different, it would be interesting, and I think it's something that should be tried.
And now, the one downside that I see, which you touched upon, is, thanks to our friends at Absolute Poker and Ultimate Bet, it's like the one way that those thieves were caught is because people could observe and watch the behaviors of specific accounts.
Yep.
So,
that's a big risk in online poker.
Right. It would have to be done on sites that are super well trusted, and you'd have to rely on the sites to do the policing for you. What do you think?
Which is in their interest to do, and that's really they have the technology to do it, and that way they could track each person's account. In some ways, if they did have these anonymous players, it would make it easier for the sites to track, because now there wouldn't be the motivation for people to try to set up accounts in other people's names or anything like that.
Or play a friend's account.
Yeah,
right.
And they'd be able to track individual players.
Had you heard that idea before?
I had not. I like it.
It's interesting to think
the reason
about,
that I was impressed by it, the reason I was impressed by it is because there are very few original ideas that you see. It's like, and this one hit me over the head.
It does get to the issue which you brought up here, which is that there aren't games started. There is kind of a drying up of the higher limit games. Now, part of the problem is, and Adam's brought this up a bunch of times, people have to open the store. There seems to be a new culture which is more, I think players now are more sophisticated, less just gamblers because they like to gamble, more because it's an opportunity. They take it
with all the training sites and everything, people are really breaking down everything, trying to get really good at the game.
They take it more professionally, they're more disciplined about game selection and so forth. But the flip side is that instead of players playing each other and maybe starting a game and other guys wanting to jump in,
trying to attract fish by having a game already,
the games just don't get going.
Right.
People think, well, if good players are playing, then no one will ever come. But if good players are playing and some of them take bad beats, and now they're playing a lot of hands or they're off their game,
they might not be quite such a good player at that time.
Right.
The only way to get started is get a game started is to play. It's so often in the 6-max games, especially you'll have 4 or 5 tables with all the same people, but no one will sit for 5 minutes and play heads up to get another table started.
Right.
That kind of thing happens all the time, and it's not good.
Now, do you find that the Hold'em is still pretty dry, and that PLO is now the...
At the nosebleeds, no one's been picking up. They opened up, the Rail Heaven tables, and now they have Gus Heaven, and so that's pretty cool. And
what is the Rail Heaven? How is that different?
They used to have just
they used to just have 200,
Ivy
400.
Pleasure Dome.
And, Ivy Thunderdome, 501 KD.
Right.
Pleasure Dome, I like it.
Yeah, I just like to twist it a little.